Christmas, yeah. Well, I'm moving down that line, and it's been so long, but I will be there. I sing this song to pass the time away, driving in my car, driving home for Christmas.
Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 296th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Our first teammate is Brotherhood member Legion 22, who has bought the Macedon faction. And as you can see there, he's got 7 Cretan archers, and I think it's about 10 pikemen he's got there. Let's just have a look at the upgrades of his pikemen there. As you can see, he's got 7 upgrades. That's an experienced strike, gold shield, gold attack. And let's have a look at his cavalry. As you can see, he's got 7 upgrades on his cavalry there. The companion cavalry, also known as the winged horsemen, due to those wings on their helmets. As I say, that's Legion 22's faction of choice there. He likes playing with Macedon and has got very good with them. Our next teammate is Brotherhood member Gladius, who has bought the Rome Brutio faction. And our next teammate is Brotherhood member Steve Longshanks, who has bought the Rome Scipio faction. Let's just have a look at Steve's army here, so I know a lot of new players like to see different army builds. As you can see here, Steve's only got 7 infantry. He's still experimented with this small infantry army. If you notice here, he's got an eagle unit there to give his 7 infantry more morale, to hopefully keep them fighting longer. And he's got 7 archers as well. So 7 infantry, 7 archers. Interesting combination. If you notice, his general's got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experienced stripes, gold shield, gold attack. And let's have a look at his cavalry. And straight away you can see these elite Praetorian cavalry have got 9 upgrades. So that's 3 experienced stripes, gold shield, gold attack. They are fully upgraded. Those are some serious cavalry there. But it'll be interesting to see whether those 6 fully upgraded cavalry make up for just 7 infantry. It should be an interesting one to watch. And as you can see here, our 4th team member is myself, Spartan Commander, who has bought the Britannia faction here, unusually. Let's say I like to bring this old army, as I say it's about 11 years old, onto the modern day battlefield. So there's our team there. This should be a great battle to watch. You wait to see the other team. Okay, at this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at this very old 11-year-old army of mine. What I like to do is to try and bring so-called lesser factions onto the 31k battlefield. And I'm sure you would agree that probably Britannia, being a barbarian faction, is not that is looked upon as a great. It's not looked upon as a great 31k faction. But as I say, this old army of mine I've resurrected in the last few weeks, and I've certainly brought it to a few battlefields. And this is the first, I think, flat battlefield with no trees I've bought this army with too, and it's as you can see here, it's got 9 infantry. And don't forget, barbarian factions get a winter bonus, a snow bonus, so this faction will be getting a bonus here because it's a winter map. If you notice, I've got 5 head hurlers. As you know, in most modern Britannia armies, people bring like maybe 12, 13 head hurlers and 6 good chariots. So they only have 5 head hurlers. Let's say you can see how old-fashioned this army is. But I believe at the time when I made this army, I wanted to make kind of like a pretty balanced army, and that's what I think this old Britannia army is. And then we've got 6 chariots. Here, as you can see, there's a close-up of the chariots with the one driver and the swordsman. They've got a swordsman there, and of course those scythed wheels. As I said before, I think pound for pound these chariots are probably the best in the game. They've got great attacking specifications, a good morale, really good morale, but they don't run amok, and that's the main thing. You remember, we've seen chariots run amok, killing both friend and foe alike. So as I say, I certainly do like to encourage so-called lesser factions to the 31k battlefield. So it'll be interesting to see how well this old 11-year-old army does, as I say, on a modern day battlefield. And here is the other team. We have Brotherhood member JGP, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. Just to have a close look at his upgrades here on his infantry. Can you see 7 upgrades? See the banners above the infantry, 7 upgrades. So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Now, newer players for RTW, that that stripe that you put on your infantry, the experience stripe, really can make a difference to the battle. And as you can see here, he's got mixed upgrades. A few he's just got gold shield, gold attack, and others he's got an experience stripe on. So that's a pretty good balanced army there, I think, that JGB has bought. Their next teammate is RTW player Destroyer. Now, I believe Destroyer was a newer player to Rome Total War. So to bring the Greek cities faction is a pretty good move, really, because those Spartans with their 2 hit points and fantastic specifications are very what I call forgiving troops. If you put them in awkward situations and things like that, very often because of their specifications, they're still pretty good. Their third teammate is RTW player Lee, who has bought the Rome Julio faction. Nice, interesting formation there he's done with his infantry. As you can see there, what's he got? 5, 10, about 14 infantry, 3 archers. And see he's got the old school cavalry general there. But just look at the upgrades on his 2 Praetorian cavalry, fully upgraded. So those 2 cavalry units are fully upgraded, and as I say, he's got the old school Roman armoured cavalry general. You don't see that very often. As I said before in other battle videos, up to about 7 or 8 years ago, we always used to bring the cavalry general as our general kind of thing. So that's a pretty good army there that Lee has bought. And their fourth teammate is Brotherhood member 8-Ball, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. You see, you got 4 archers at the front. You see nice formation there. And if we look a little bit closer at his army there, you can see, can you see that he has also got an experience stripe on his infantry? See 7 upgrades, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack there. So that's a pretty tough infantry there. And if you notice, his general's got 8 upgrades, so that's 2 experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So if you notice there, those infantry are pretty tough that he's got in that formation. As I say, newer players watching RTW, that experience stripe really can make a difference, especially towards the end of the battle. And if you notice here, his pilot shield unit is the light auxiliary. As we said before, if you can get them to stand, they'll soak up pilots as good as any other expensive unit there. And let's have a look at his cavalry. And you see that his cavalry has got 7 upgrades. So that's gold shield, gold attack, and an experience stripe. So there's the enemy team. Looks pretty good. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle here, you can see that there's kind of a bit of an archer battle going on. And this is a night battle. If you look at the sky, you can see that the sky is dark. So when people shoot their arrows at night, it's always fire arrows. Unless you actually change it back to normal arrows, the archers automatically fire arrows. As you can see here, a lot of Cretan archers with their long range. You can see a lot of the missiles in the darkness of the sky there. Remember, those fire arrows don't just cause casualties, but they actually lower the morale of troops that those fire arrows are hitting. They don't do as much damage, but they do bring a fear factor, those fire arrows. So they can be used, when you use fire arrows, if you use them just at the right time into the rear of engaged troops and stuff like that, lowering their morale, very often you can cause a rout. Let's just pause the game for a second, take stock of exactly what's going on. As you can see here, JGP with his SPQR army is being aggressive towards Steve's army. I think JGP, knowing he outnumbers Steve's infantry there, is probably thinking that Steve would be a good target to hit with his infantry and cavalry. Moving up to the front there, you can see that Gladius's green Brutii troops are facing Lee's red Julii troops there, and maybe some Greek cities if those Greek cities tend to attack. Over on our right flank, you can see our Macedon allies there. But if you notice, can you see that Lee's cavalry, fast-moving cavalry general, what he would love to do is hit those Cretan archers. He'd love to take that cavalry unit round there and hit those Cretan archers. But with those green Brutii cavalry and my Britannia chariots and head hurlers out just behind those archers, he won't be able to do that. But you can see he's almost itching to run that general unit round to hit those archers there. Harassing and haranguing with those fast-moving general units can be very effective, and that's what I think he'd love to do there. But unfortunately for him, he just can't do that. Lots of pilot exchanging going on here between the green Brutii troops and the red Julii troops there. As you can see, lots of archers been brought to this battlefield. And as I say, at night the default arrows are the fire arrows. Right, can you see Lee taking his general unit round here? It wouldn't surprise me if he charged into the flank or the rear of, there you go, and bang, as that general unit goes into the rear of that Brutii unit there. As I say, using that cavalry general unit as a harassing and haranguing unit, trying to disrupt the enemy battle line and disrupt enemy units, it's always a good tactic. I remember Brotherhood member Uther and Brotherhood member Conan used to do that so well with their general units there. Right, if you notice here, can you see that new RTW player, new player to RTW, that destroyer, he's not just sitting back with his Spartans, but he's actually attacking with them. I think that's pretty. Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, he's a newer player to RTW, but rather than just sit back and form a defensive box or just play defensively, he's actually attacking with some of his Spartan units, and that's nice to see. Remember, when you attack in RTW, you grab the initiative. The enemy has to react to you. As you can see, that one unit has lost a lot of men to pilot hits, down to 55 men. But it's nice to see a newer player using Greek cities actually attacking. So really well done to Destroyer. As you can see here, a lot of Steve's archer units have been quite severely damaged there by enemy archer fire. It wouldn't surprise me if Steve put some of his units into Testudo there, as that is the normal counter to being attacked by pikes. And I think that looks like what he's doing there with that Eagle unit. But as I said here, it looks like JGP with his SBQR army is looking upon Steve's small number of infantry as a potential attack target.
Units, advance!
I'll move some of my head hurlers forward there with a view to start throwing some of those effective against armour, fear bringing heads into the enemy troops. Let's say Steve's put one of his units and put a couple of his units into Testudo. As we just said earlier, it's a good counter to being attacked by pikes. But it does look to me like JGP is ready to attack Steve here on our left flank. Let's say, remember, those head hurlers, those effective against armour heads, don't just cause lots of damage, but they actually bring a fear factor, which of course lowers the morale of enemy troops and therefore destabilises them and makes them ripe for routing. You see those heads going into the enemy troops there? Let's say a modern Britannia army, I noticed tend to be like 12 or 13 head hurlers and 6 good chariots. Right, let's pause the game for a minute. You might just have saw an archer unit there glow. That means it just got upgraded through battle experience. As you can see, there is a heck of a lot of archers firing into the troops all the time here. Let's say Steve's army here is looking like it's being aggressively attacked. If you notice here, can you see that Gladius has spread his Brutii army quite thin across the centre there? He's facing Lee's red Julii army and some Greek cities units there, and his army is quite thin in that particular area. I'm just thinking a big cavalry charge through there could cause maybe some problems. Now, over on our right flank here, you can see our Macedon ally is not engaged yet. If you notice that my Britannia army, I'm holding at the rear. Remember, all barbarian troops are extremely susceptible to archer damage, so I'm keeping them at the rear there, out of archer range, and ready to throw them into the battle as soon as I see a best place for them to attack. But as I say, here on our left flank, you can see that JGP and their Greek cities allies here really starting to attack Steve's 7 infantry units. Nice bit of teamwork there by Gladius, throwing some of his green Brutii infantry over here to help Steve. But as I say, a concerted effort here by the enemy on this left flank could maybe break Steve's 7 infantry. Be interesting to see. There's lots of pilers going in at the moment. As you can see, JGP starting to attack now with his troops, his infantry. There's a lot of pressure on Steve's 7 units here on that left flank. There's fire arrows coming in on him as well. Remember, those fire arrows not just cause casualties but lower the morale of his troops. His troops will know that they're outnumbered, so their morale will be low already. Let's just pause the game for a second. Right, if you notice here on a flank, can you see I'm moving my chariots out here with a view to smash into the side of those SPQR units, but with those Greek city pikes there, of course, pikes will kill chariots really easily, so that movement of Greek cities out there is a good move for the enemy team, because that's basically countered my thoughts of charging in with my chariots there to help Steve. As you move out here, can you see how Gladius's green Brutii troops are extremely thin in this part of the battlefield? A concerted attack there by the enemy could possibly break through here. There's Legion and Gladius there. Fighting the red Julii troops there. Nice a cavalry charge there by the Macedon cavalry. But over here right on our right flank, can you see the enemy SPQR and our Macedon ally have not engaged yet. A lot of cavalry out there on that right flank, enemy cavalry. So it'll be interesting to see how things develop over on that right flank. But at the moment, it seems to me that the main battle is occurring here on the left flank. And I'm just wondering whether this left flank could be pivotal to the outcome of the battle. Now if you notice, I'm running my chosen swordsman, my Britannia chosen swordsman forward here. Probably with a view to charging in here and helping Steve's beleaguered army here. Let's just pause the game for a second. Right, can you see that Steve's Eagle unit has now been routed? So Steve's troops have lost a big morale giver there in that Eagle unit, and with all the pressure of the enemy SPQR and Greek cities pushing in, Steve's army, I think, is almost on the verge of breaking here on our left flank. So the only thing that I'm going to do now, I'm going to start throwing my Britannia chosen swordsman in. I'm going to take my chariots round there. If you notice that Steve's got his cavalry round to that left flank as well. But as I say, those Greek cities could neutralise an attack there by our chariots and cavalry. Just have to see how this works here. You see the enemy SPQR charging the Steve's units, and bang as that cavalry smashes into Steve's units there. Right, if you notice, I've taken my chosen swordsman over here now to attack the enemy team over here on our left flank to support Steve's army, who is, I'd have thought, just about going to break. Let's pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, I've pressed the battle cry of my troops, which makes their attack even better, higher their specifications. When you press battle cry, I'm charged into the enemy SPQR infantry there to try and shore up our left flank here, as I believe Steve's army was just about to break there. If you notice that Steve's got his cavalry, his fully upgraded cavalry is charging in. He's charging them basically through those Greek city pikes. Not something that you would usually do, but I think that seeing that his army is nearly breaking there, I think he's charging that cavalry in there as a throw of the dice, if you like. If you can get the cavalry through those Greek cities, then he will be able to rout some of those troops. As you can see here, I've got my chariots there ready to move in as well. So as I say, this left flank could prove pivotal to the outcome of the battle. And bang as that cavalry of Steve charged into the rear of those engaged SPQR troops. Right, if you notice, I'm starting to charge my chariots forward as well there. Just going to pause the game there for a second. Right, can you see in the enemy troops here, they're frightened by chariots. So just the presence of the chariots, they haven't even attacked those SPQR troops yet, just the presence of those chariots have lowered the morale of those enemy troops. So that's good, because that's going to, as I say, destabilise the enemy units and make them ripe for routing. Just with the chariots' presence there, they haven't even hit those SPQR troops. There's Steve's cavalry charging in, there's my Britannia swordsman, chosen swordsman charging in there. And that SPQR army, even though you notice those troops had experienced stripes on, The fear factor from the chariots and the hits from my swordsman and Steve's cavalry are starting to rout those SBQR units. Meanwhile, over here in our right and left centre here, you can see that Gladius's Brutian army still spread out quite thin, but if you notice, our Macedon ally has brought some Macedon pike units over as well to help. But over on our right flank here, you can see not a lot actually happening here at the moment. 8-Ball hasn't really engaged the Macedon troops there, so our right flank is quite quiet at the moment, but as you can see, the real action has kicked off over on our left flank. And as you can see, I just wanted to show you that even the presence of chariots can lower the morale of enemy troops, even if they're not attacking those particular troops. And as you can see, a lot of those SBQR troops, and bang, Steve's cavalry really presses home there with my chosen swordsman there. That's like a sandwich attack, hammer and anvil attack there on the enemy SBQR troops there. So that was a nice, if you like, comeback. That was a nice comeback on our left flank there. That looked like our left flank was going to break at one stage, but we've managed to turn that around on the left flank. And as I said, I wonder if this left flank will prove pivotal to the outcome of the battle here. As you can see, I'm pouring my Britannia troops forward, looking to probably get behind the rear of the enemy troops. There's some Gladius charging his Brutoi cavalry, and bang, as that cavalry hits. Right, now, did you see he charged that cavalry into that Spartan unit head on? But that Spartan unit, I think, only had about 20 men in it when he hit it with his cavalry, and he knew the impact of that cavalry would break that Greek cities unit there, and he probably charged that cavalry on through into that enemy Julii infantry behind, and he has, as that cavalry charges him, bang, as it hits that Julii infantry as well. Nice cavalry attack there by Gladius, and they pull his cavalry back. There you got the full cavalry charge bonus there with his cavalry. He doesn't want to hang around fighting infantry, pulls his cavalry back, probably with a view to charge them in again. He'll reform that cavalry, charge them in again, once again getting the full cavalry charge bonus. If you notice here, can you see I'm moving some of my Britannia chosen swordsmen around the rear of the enemy troops? Right, there you go, you can see Gladius pulled his cavalry back, rallied them. He's pulled the trigger, and bang, as that cavalry hits the Julii infantry again. I always like to see when he pulls the cavalry back, it's like he pulls the hammer back on the rifle, then he pulls the trigger, and in the cavalry goes. Right up here, can you see the enemy Julii troops there? We're fighting our Macedon ally there, and if you notice, I'm bringing chariots in behind. I'm charging in with my chosen swordsman. I've pressed battle cry as they charge in, and bang, as those chariots go into the rear of those enemy troops there. It wouldn't surprise me if that combination of swords, chosen swordsman, chariots would rout that Julii army there. If you notice that our Macedon ally there has got his pikes there as well, kind of like a real hammer and anvil attack there. But if you notice there, most of those Julii troops there were routed by my Britannia chosen swordsman and those chariots. So, as I say, Britannia looked upon as a lesser 31k faction, but look how well it's just done there, and during the course of the battle as well. So, newer players to RTW, if you fancy bringing a different faction to the 31k battlefield, just see how well Britannia is doing there. Nice bit of routing of enemy troops there. If we look over on our right flank here, you can see that 8-Ball's enemy SBQR infantry is now engaged, taking on Legion's Macedon units there. But as I say, the main, I think the main kickoff point here for the battle was on our left flank, and as I say, this could prove pivotal to the outcome of the battle. Right, if you see, basically all the enemy Julii troops there in that particular part of the battlefield have now been routed. You see I've got my chosen swordsman here engaging a couple of Greek city units. Steve's got his general there as well. But if you notice, once again, we got chariots and cavalry in behind enemy SBQR infantry, which we're going to charge into. And once again, those chariots bringing the fear factor, frightening enemy troops, as well as their great attacking specifications there, in combination with allies there, have managed to rout the enemy SBQR troops that were over on that particular flank.
You have killed the enemy general. Now his men show fear. Now they may turn and run. Attack!
Let's just pause the game for a second. Right, so you can see there Britannia troops there with the chariots. As I say, those chariots as I say, bring that fear factor, and as I say, that lowers the morale of enemy units, destabilising them and making them ripe for routing. So as I say, Britannia looked upon as a lesser 31k faction, and when you see how well it's done in this particular battle, do you think that it could well be a faction worth bringing to the 31k battlefield? So say here, over on the right flank, it looks like most of the enemy SBQR troops have been routed, and over on our left flank there you can see there's some very battle damaged enemy Greek city units left. I see Steve's generals fighting with one of those units there. I see there's still some enemy archers still shooting some arrows into us, but I think basically it looks like our team has managed to maybe go on and win this battle here. There's Steve's cavalry charge. Remember those fully upgraded cavalry, and bang as he charges those cavalry in.
Enemy flee from the field like frightened goats. Hunt them down.
I think normally, obviously, you wouldn't charge cavalry into pike units, but I think Steve knows it's you know, our team has managed to win the battle here, and he knows his cavalry are fully upgraded, so he's just attacked with his cavalry into those Greek city units there. If you can see the power of those Praetorian cavalry when they're fully upgraded, really, really good. Right, you see my chosen swordsman coming in behind that Greek city's general, and bang as that infantry hits. Did you see the Greek city's general spotted my chosen swordsman coming in and turn that unit round to face it, but with cavalry hitting into the rear of that general unit, hammer and anvil attack here. My infantry, the anvil, and Steve's cavalry smashing in behind the hammer. Great example of a hammer and anvil attack there for newer players to Rome Total War. Took out that Greek city's general there, really good. I can see my chosen swordsmen are celebrating a victory there. Very often at the end of the battle you'll see troops celebrating there when they've actually
this is a great victory.
when they've won the battle, celebrating, if you just saw that there. So as I say, it looks like our team has managed to go on and win this battle. First thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game. Some great attacking moves there by everybody in that game, I thought, and some great teamwork as well. So really well played to everybody there. I see it was a clear victory. I thought it might have been a bit closer than that, but I'd just like to draw your attention to my Britannia army. Now remember, that Britannia army is over 11 years old, and if you notice, it's managed to get the most kills in this battle against really good players as well. So you know, that's about the highest kills I think Britannia that I've seen get, I think, as far as I can remember. Usually it's between 12 and 14, 1200 and 1400 for kills, but to get 1700, over 1700 kills is pretty good for Britannia. Steve did well with his army as well. Remember, he only had 7 infantry, but look at the kills that Steve got there. So he did well. If you notice that Legion here has still got the vast majority of his army still intact. And if you look at the enemy kills here, you can see there's only a couple of them that's got over 1,000 kills there. But that was the way that we actually attacked, I think, really. Let's have a look at the battle statistics of my my old army there. If you notice, the general chosen swords unit killed 103, but look at the chariot kills. Whoa. And don't forget, that's not just the kills that they've done there to help us win the battle, but it's the fear factor that they bring. Remember, we talked about that lowers the morale of enemy troops and makes them ripe for routing. My infantry didn't do a lot in this battle, reasonable, quite good kills, but I think the effect of the chariots was really noticeable in that battle. So as I say, really well done to everybody in the game there. On behalf of the Brotherhood and myself, I'd like to wish you all a really happy Christmas, and I hope you have a really great 2018 as well. And I hope you enjoy watching our battles into 2018, and I hope our battles are going to be just as good as what they were in 2017. So once again, just say really well played to everybody in the game. 8-ball lead, Destroyer and JGP, well done guys, and really well done to Steve, Gladius and Legion 22. Some really great teamwork, as a really great battle, and see you soon.